Good morning, everyone. It's great to have all of you with us today. This is a fantastic day, and I trust that everyone has been having a great Thanksgiving. And I trust that you didn't eat too much. I heard Ricardo Clark on the radio talking about those candied potatoes and that ham and turkey. Well, I could tell you, I surely had a wonderful session with my ham and turkey and fish. And boy, listen, thank God that every day is a day of Thanksgiving. That is just so wonderful. And to all of you who are joining us via Zoom and Facebook, I am so thrilled. We are so thrilled to have you with us. I saw some of our friends joining in already, and it's great to have you with us today. So good morning. I trust you've had your breakfast or your Wheaties or your brunch, and you're ready and raring to go for today's Arise Together conversation. Many of you, as we said last week, would have joined us in July for the conference where we had some dynamic speakers, 11 of them, in fact. And we're so thrilled that we have progressed into this next level of Arise Together conversations, whereby we can have other persons involved in the actual session. And today's session is all about community transformation. So we have with us an esteemed gentleman who is a former Assistant Commissioner of Police in the person of John W. Ferguson. I just realized that John W. is John Wesley Ferguson. So I wanted to introduce him to you so we can get right into the chat. But this is your moment, if you haven't already done so, to ask your mom, your dad, your friend, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, your godparents, your godchildren, everybody to join the conversation. So we are just so delighted that in this moment you will hear from someone who is a change champion, not only in his career, but he is a change champion in the community. And this promises to be the best hour of your day. And when we talk about transformation, as we learned last week, we were talking about shaking things up and watching and learning from others, what they are doing better than we are doing, and how can we learn from them, and how is it that we can keep track of what works and what doesn't work. Now, as it relates to the concept of community transformation, it is intended to describe significant change in a community, perhaps a distressed community, an inner city community where we can clearly see measurable changes as it relates to income and employment and educational achievement, even in the health realm and the environmental quality. That's what we're talking about when we speak to community transformation. So our dynamic guest today is John Wesley Ferguson, who was born in New Providence and is the first of 9 children. Come on now, let me see your hand if you have about 9 children in your family. I know some of us don't have that 9, but he did a marvelous job as a born leader. And I'm sure through his experiences, he was really made as a leader. And we're so thrilled that he has been able to join us today. As he moved through various schools and eventually joined the Royal Bahamas Police Force in 1973, from Hong Kong to China to Hawaii, John has been gaining leadership skills and training. And this has made him one of the best officers that the force had ever seen. And he rose, of course, to the ranks of Assistant Commissioner of Police. Now, in his private life, John is also a minister with the Church of God of Prophecy. And he founded the Big Harvest Community School in Woods Alley, which is off Market Street. And that caters to the underprivileged children and youth in that area. So John and his wife and his children, of course, know all too well that he lives by the motto, in the words of John Wesley, his namesake, I shall only pass this way once. I must do all the good I can by all the means that I can, in all the ways that I can, in all the places that I can, at all the times that I can, and to all the people that I can, for as long as I can, for I shall not pass this way in vain. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed guest for today's conversation, Mr. John Ferguson.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
So great to have you, John.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sabon, for inviting me to be a part of such an inspiration conversational show.
So, John, we're going to jump right into the questions today and talk about community transformation. You've spent a significant amount of time in law enforcement, being a police officer, traveling to Hong Kong, China, and Hawaii, and all of the places in the world that, some of us only dream of going to, right? And we just want you, please, to describe your journey for us. How did you get to this place?
First, good morning to your audience around the world, both here in New Providence and around the world. Let me say that my entire life was rounded and surrounded by Christian principles, and therefore my focus from my got wind of who I am was to know who I am and that I was in this life for a purpose and I did not just drop out of the sky. My journey was a roller coaster one, exciting, and it was filled with ups and downs, high and lows, good and bad. And
But
but
we want to
overall,
talk about those.
yeah, but overall filled with adventure. And I would take the same route again if I had to do it all over again. And particularly as it relates to my upbringing, I was born in an alley. That's where I grew up, in an alley.
Wow.
Wood Valley. No, it was originally
Okay.
known as Choke Neck Alley. I don't know if you ever hear Bishop Simeon Hall talk about Choke Neck Alley. That's the same alley that I got my early upbringing as a youngster. And that's why I can identify with young men and women, young women who grew up in those circumstances. And even though I eventually moved out of the alley, my heart was always to bring as much young people out of that kind of situation as possible. Even though there's nothing wrong about growing up in alley, it's nothing disdaining about it, because if you think, let's say, persons who in the United States, if you grew up in Harlem or the Bronx or Brooklyn, that does not make you any more less than a New Yorker. Or if you grow up in Brownsville in Miami, it does not make you any less. So that was the kind of upbringing that I had, and it was exciting. And when I went back after I joined the police force in 1973, that was when I really got a telescopic view of what was happening in our country, particularly in the inner cities.
So, John, when we look at your start, which is literally, kind of like the reason behind your passion of what you do today, what are some of the core values that you had? You said you were in the alley. You understand what it means to have been there, and you even work there now. What were some of the core principles that you developed while you were in the environment that kind of helped you to come out of the environment and be able to go back in and bring others out?
One of the the main core principle, I should say, was to first, you must have a heart for the people who you are focusing on. And particularly when you're dealing with underprivileged children and at-risk youth, you must have a heart for them, a passion to help them, and put yourself in that position so you can literally experience what they are going through. And I always got my grounding and the focus for what I intend to do from the fruits of the spirit.
Mm.
And the first one is love. If you don't love people, how can you help people?
Wow.
If you don't love them, you can't help them. And if you have 9 fruits of the spirit, and you talk about joy, if you're not a happy person with yourself, how could you make anyone else happy? If you're not at peace, that's another fruit. If you're not at peace with yourself, how can you make anybody else be peaceful? And I can go on and on. So they were the value, they were the core ingredients that I put in the value that I wanted to let people see and not talk about. People have to see those values.
Yeah.
You can talk values, but if people are not translating and seeing what you're talking about in your life and in your everyday living, they laugh at you.
Mhm.
You know, as far as they're concerned, you're a joke. You're not
Wow.
serious. You know, and that's why I constantly keep those values in my mind in everything that I do to help people. They must see it and feel it, feel the values of what you're talking about. It's more just
Yeah.
more than a thought, you know. You know, so
And John,
having
that's
a
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say having a heart for people and doing those things and the ability that you have to do and to help people who I would call they have the ability. A lot of our youngsters in these inner city, they have the ability to do things, but they do not have the opportunity.
Wow.
And we are, those of us who have a heart for them, we are that opportunity that they are longing for. And as long as we don't provide them with that opportunity, that door that they can open, then we are literally keeping them out. Their visions become aborted. Whatever vision they have, it is aborted because we don't provide that opportunity.
John, there's so much in there, and it's going even ahead because it speaks to our roles as citizens, as persons who have something to share, no matter how small it is. But it also speaks to perhaps, what are they getting in the home? You talk about visions and dreams and the mental pictures that youth and community leaders and that children see really comes from that parental role. Um, how what did that do for you, being the first of 9, in terms of having that example, that mentor, and what are you seeing being in the community today?
I'll tell you, Sabon, I grew up in a very close knitted family. I had 6 sisters, 2 brothers, one that's now deceased. But we grew up so close. My father was a pastor. My mother was his helpmate throughout life. And it was from them that certain things was ingrained in us. I attended Sunday school from, I know myself. I was a Sunday school boy. Sunday school in the morning, Sunday school in the afternoon. And I recall one afternoon driving through Woods Alley of Market Street, the old homestead, and I saw all of these little children just on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, they were into everything, throwing rock, throwing bottle.
Wow.
And I looked at the land where I grew up. It was a vacant land with some old banana plants and other trees. And something, it almost like a divine intervention from God. This is your harvest. This is your harvest. This is your harvest. And I could not sleep. It just hung on me. And I said, Lord, you're telling me this harvest. What must I do? And I thought about the Sunday school. I said, that can be the mobile vehicle that can get these youngsters to the next level. And it was on September the 3rd, 1995, that the Big Harvest Community Sunday School was born in Woods Alley off Market Street with 35 barefoot children, a few volunteers, my family, And that is what we got started with. And 25 years later, the Big Harvest Sunday School is a national, what I would call, I can't even describe it, but it's known nationally for its annual Sunday School rally in the alley every January, where hundreds of people of all walks of life, Jews and Gentile, Protestant and Catholic, white and black, rich and poor, they come into that alley religiously every January. Well, the pandemic is throwing us back a little, just to see that Sunday school and to see those underprivileged kids who never dreamed that they can have people come into their domain, into their space, and provide them with the love and support that they so badly needed. The Sunday school was the vehicle that did it in this instance. And
Wow.
that is one of the attributes that I can say, that when you have a vision for something and you are committed to your vision and you ask God to help you to accomplish your vision, God cannot fail. And to date, he has never failed me. And that Sunday school is moving on from strength to strength. I just returned from India in February of this year.
India,
Chennai, Southern India. This was my second trip to India, where people who have heard about our Sunday school, it's a ministry called Metro Missions. And it's a big thing in India. And they heard about Big Harvest Sunday School many years ago. The director of that particular mission, I met him in Hawaii. And he said, John, I like what is going on in the Bahamas. You have to come to India.
Wow.
I want to duplicate that. And to date, there are Sunday schools similar to Big Harvest in India. Similar to India. And my wife and I, we just came back in February. And they want me to come back. So that's what happened then. You take something small, you put it in the hands of God, and he makes it big. That's the story.
That is amazing. I mean, some of us only dream of going to India, you know, with that population just being phenomenally big. And being found from the Bahamas, you're talking about less than 400,000 people.
That's
to
right.
a country that has over a billion people. That is phenomenal. You know, so here is a couple of things that I got from what you were saying too. You talked about going back into the community and really, you know, seeing what is it that I could do to enhance the community. What are some of the things that were accomplished? Because I want to ask you about the students themselves who would have come. You said 25 years ago. Consistently, you have been doing this, right?
That's right.
And so you've been doing this. Those children who would have started as barefoot children in that community are now adults.
That is correct. That is correct.
Tell us about some of the things that they have done. And then I want you to talk to us about some of the partners that you have in terms of this community development, because I know you can't do it by yourself.
No, I couldn't do it by myself, and I'm glad. That's an excellent observation that you're allowing me to do. First, most of the adults, most of the kids who started off in that particular at that time, they are now adults. For instance, I don't know if you hear about Dwight Colby, Kadeem Colby, the Colby boys.
Wow.
They Woods Alley, Choknak Alley boys. They are now playing professional basketball in places like Turkey, Japan, and Italy.
Yes.
You have Donnie Moss, who is in Canada. They were barefoot boys. They used to come when they were youngsters helping. You have youngsters who are everywhere I go. I meet them at the fast food place. They said, Pastor Ferguson, you remember me? I said, remind me who you are. You don't remember when I used to come to the Sunday school? I said, what? Look at you. You're now a cashier. And we have some of them, one or two of them have now become doctors, you know, and moved on. You know what was so inspiring? The other day, Kadeem came back for a trip, and he came to show his wife and children where he got his spiritual grounding. Yeah. And he is so tall now, my face is in his chest.
Well, hold on. Let our viewers know how tall you are, first of all, because you are very tall.
Well, I am 5'11" and a half. I am about 5'11" and a half.
Right.
And my face is now in Kadeem chest.
Wow.
Yet
Well
he
over
is so
6 feet.
tall.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were barefoot boys. They used to come help every Sunday afternoon. They come and help get the chairs together. They would come and after Sunday school is finished, they fold up the chairs under the tent, help to sweep, and I would give them 25 cents and that kind of stuff, you know. But that I can go on and on with youngsters who are now adults and who have come back to more or less say thanks. Many of them have come back to say thanks, to say, had it not been for the teaching that they got in that Sunday school, they don't think they could have made it. And then you talk about persons who came to help us. You know, I always tell people, if you ask God to help you, He will help you. And when we started out, we had nothing. First, I must give encouragement to my church family. You know, they supported me in terms of, you know, encouragement. You need that encouragement to know that what you're doing is the right thing. But from a corporate perspective, I can never, and I will always be grateful and thankful to Mr. Rupert Roberts,
Wow.
the president of Super Value Food Stores.
Yeah.
When he heard about that Sunday school, he literally called me and said, you know, at the time I was a police officer and I had my career. It was the career and my and that was running parallel. And he said to me, "Do you know you have been called to do something by God?" And he said, "The fact that I am talking to you, this is divine, you know."
Wow.
And let me tell you, my dear, he said, what was happening, he cannot get left. He have to be a part of what is happening in that community. He told me that. And we had many conversations. He came to all the Sunday school. In fact, he came to the Sunday school rally on many occasions, but he also came while we were in Sunday school in session and sat with those children.
Yeah.
You know, and he said he will always be a part of Big Harvest Sunday School because he said that is what is needed in every community in our country.
Yes.
And you see, not only that, you know, people or businessmen like him, they are surrounded by other businessmen who would buy into their vision and what they support. And so God has been tremendously good, and the blessings that we have enjoyed because of that little vision is beyond measure. I cannot explain it, and I cannot understand why I was the one that was chosen to go into that alley at that time. That community is now transformed. There was a park called the Hay Street Park, which is nearby. All that park was known for was gunshots. And I can tell you because at one time I headed the firearms unit in the Royal Bahamas Police Force. So I understood the problems that we were having in that area with those gangsters, I call them. But now you can come into Woods Alley, all that antisocial behavior, all that obscenity, and the way those youngsters were behaving is gone. You can walk through there anytime and nobody will bother with you. The park is now used as a social gathering for the youngsters in the community, you know. So that's what the transformation, that word is so powerful. It means a change in everything. When you change the face of something that once was and no longer is, you can safely say it has been transformed. You know,
Sorry, this is just amazing. You continue, sir. You go right ahead.
No, I was going to mention another person who everybody may know. There's a young man by the name of Scroogey. He has a show that comes on Guardian Radio every Friday night. Scroogey was one of the most prolific gun runners in this country. And I know he know I know. And Scroogey them, they slept with their guns. They wake up with their guns in their hand and they would have taken you out for nothing.
Wow.
But today, Scroogey has made a 360-degree turn in his life and is now a contributing citizen of that community. He has his talk show on Guardian Radio, and he is helping. And he, every time I meet him, he meet me, say, Pastor Ferguson, I thank you for how you helped me. Say, even though you many times you arrested me, but you never treated me like a dog. You treated me with respect. you know, and that was the way a lot of the transformation took place in that community. And he is
This
just
is,
one of them.
wow, this is so profound, John. This is so profound. Um, and it just see, you know, it has to be the handprint of God on this, and it gives you just a great amount of hope that if it can happen in Woods Alley, it can happen Hospital Lane. It can
Yes.
happen in any other community where it is needed. But it takes people, like you said, who are committed to the cause and who are consistent over time in working with this, because the vision attracts people to make provision for the vision. You talked about Mr. Roberts and the contribution that he has made. And when you talk about the Colby boys, I remember seeing them quite a bit in the news in sports.
Yes, just recently.
Yes. And
Just
to think that, you know, 25 years ago, they were some of the first children in this community school, and it made such a difference in their lives. You wanted to say something, sir?
You're referring to me?
Yes,
Oh
John.
yes, oh, most definitely. You know what, Saban, what really touched my heart was when those boys, like I said, they are now making it. They are making it. To go out of that alley and now living in, playing in Japan and in that region of the world and really making it. And I want you to know, when Dwight came to see us, he didn't come empty-handed.
Wow.
I'll be honest with you. He came and he said, Pastor Ferguson, this ministry, this Sunday school has done so much for me. I just want to give you something as a payback for what you all did in my life. And it almost brought tears to my eyes when he said that, because he said all his spiritual foundation is helping him now to survive where he is now. And I could understand that, because when you go into countries where Christianity is looked at, just as another religion, so to speak, but you have that so inbound in you that you have to let that light shine in whichever way you can. You know, it makes a difference, and that's why I tell people every time I go make I've given speeches and talks and motivation talk to so many churches and Sunday schools. I wouldn't even start to name them. You will be surprised to know the amount of persons and organizations that have asked me to tell their people how it was done, you know. And it's so easy to be done, but you got to have that commitment. Lazy people, the Lord cannot use for work like this. You got to be a heavy lifter. You know, you can't be depending on the light picking and cherry picking. You have to understand that the weight that God has given you now will become lighter if you make the decision to pick up the weight that He's giving you. Wow. But there are so many people, young people in our churches, who are professionally trained to deal with young people. They've been to seminars, they've been to school, they've been to university, they've been all over the place, how to start a small cell group, how to start with a Sunday school. You know, Saban, it's so easy. You can go to any one of the average over the hill communities. And let me use one, for example. You could go and say DeVoe Street on a Sunday afternoon, and you will find no less than 50 youngsters who are just sitting around doing nothing. Wow. Their parents just lounging around. All it takes is a local church or a congregation or a Sunday school person or a Sabbath school on a Saturday if they want to. Take 10 chairs, 15 chairs, 2 gallons of Kool-Aid or 2 cases of juice, a couple donuts, and let the word get around in that community that John Doe or Mary Sue is having Sunday school under the Connect tree where everybody is be. Yes. And I could guarantee you, as sure as today is Saturday, within a month, you will have so many youngsters in your Sunday school under that Connect tree, they will ask you if you have a church.
Wow.
But you have to have the vision and the will to do it because the harvest is there. The harvest is great. We have 62,000 plus youngsters in our public school system and even in the private school. They have no allegiance to no pastor, no church. They're just in the
Wow.
community like low hanging fruits waiting to be picked. But you know what happened? People just drive through, they take those inner city as a shortcut. They come across Gibbs Corner onto, they get onto Nassau Street, heading to the airport with their glass screw up, thousands of youngsters sitting down. And on the reverse, they come through Gibbs Corner onto Palmdale, heading up Shirley Street, back out east or out west. And you leave a whole harvest, and then you go to church on Sunday morning, you sing, rescue the perishing, care for the dying.
Come on, John.
Children right outside. They right outside your door of your church, dying. But you jump in your air-conditioned car, scoop your glass, and you go home, eat your chicken and rice and potato salad, and then you sing it, rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Who is the dying?
Wow.
Who is the perishing? That's
Mhm.
the question Jesus asks.
Yes.
But
Yes.
got
This
to have
is
the will to do it.
yes, that commitment. Now, in terms of the challenges you talked about earlier, that it's been a roller coaster. Obviously,
Yes.
there are a lot of highs whereby there are a lot of achievements, successes through that have been demonstrated through the lives of persons involved in this community transformation. But what were some of the challenges that you faced and how did it shape you?
One of the main challenge, I'll tell you, is one, you face this challenge of, okay, are you going to be accepted for what you believe in? Do you have the inner feeling within yourself to know that you can achieve what you are trying to achieve? That is a challenge for many people. They don't believe in, they don't have the faith to believe that they want to do something, it's in their passion and their heart to do it. They cannot get over that challenge until they are stuck in first gear. They're just there. The car is still in park. But when they decide that, okay, I'm going to put this car in drive now so that I can move, that's a big challenge. And when we first started the Sunday school, it was a challenge because one of the things that I was trying to balance was my professional career and then this new calling that I had. I had to balance it because on four occasions while I got started, like I said, I had my parent, my father, my mother, my wife, children, and some my friends and some volunteer teachers along with me to help me get started. But when you are the leader of something, a movement, Sunday school is a movement, really. You always conscious of the fact that you have to be there. But I learned that one thing for sure is in God's work, God can use people when they're needed. On several occasions while I was in the police force and doing it, I was posted to different places. I went to Andrews for almost 2 years, but the Sunday school went on. I went for some training at the FBI Academy for 10 weeks, but the Sunday school went on. I went for some training in Hong Kong and China, but the Sunday school went on. And that proved to me that, you know something, this ain't yours, this is the Lord's work. It's not about you. And that's the attitude that I have developed, that it's not about me. I am only the conduit at this time, the river that is flowing into an ocean. And that's, I think, what has really caused most of the challenges the inner challenges, I would say, that had me bounded to be completely erased. And again, like I said, the big thing for a lot of people is the challenge that they have within themselves, that they can achieve what they can achieve if they only break out of that psyche that I cannot do it. And they find all kind of excuses as to why they cannot do it. They say, oh, I don't have the money. It's not about money. It's the will to to do what you've been called to do. The money will follow you. That's the fact. That's a fact. You know. And so most of the challenges that I faced during the initial start of everything, I've overcome them, completely overcome them. And I don't see unless some new challenges come, you know, you know, people just gravitate. They just gravitate to what you're doing. When we have our Sunday school rally, like I said, we have honored over 100 Sunday school, Sabbath school teachers in the years we've been having those rallies. People of different persuasions who have made a contribution in their particular local assembly and in their community in teaching youngsters about the Word of God. Because I don't care what anyone say. Yes, things have changed. We're now in the technology age. We have to now become tech savvy in everything we do. This pandemic has caused the world to come to a screeching halt. The Bahamas is a part of the world. So we have to kind of reevaluate and retool what we're doing, not stop what we're doing. We have to retool what we're doing. Some are of the opinion, oh, Sunday school is outdated. Sunday school is not outdated. Is a motor car outdated? Is a bus outdated? Is a jet plane outdated? Well, why they were the things that were carrying us all our life, transporting us all along. Are you saying now you're not gonna use the car no more? You're gonna walk? Okay, more power to you. But you improve what you're doing. That's all you're doing, retooling it, and that's what is need to happen. That what needs to be happening now, even in all of our local churches. It's not going to be the same route, the same run of the mill, because you're dealing with a generation now who their world is in their hand in a cell phone. So now you have to find a way how to reach them. And like I said, with this pandemic upon us now, in the inner city, nothing has changed really. They have the same problems. Despite all the advancement that we have made, those people, those youngsters have the same problems. It hasn't gone away. They still need someone to give them something. They still need someone to do this. They'll need someone to do that. You take, for instance, when you see me finish this Zoom this afternoon, you know what I'll be doing? My wife and I, we're going to Caesar, Little Caesar, and we're gonna get a whole stack of pizzas to hand deliver to those families of our Sunday school children. What is so outdated about that? That ain't outdated.
Right.
That is not outdated. And these are the things that touch the lives of people. If you're not touching people's lives, I'm not talking about talking people's lives, touching them in a tangible way, touching them, that makes the difference. And the other day, our Sunday school, we were able to give out over 500 grocery bags it was to see those people lining up for their grocery bags. So these are the ways that you can touch a community and change a community for the better. Change is something that needs to happen now, and I think this pandemic has spurred us on in every aspect to change.
And let me ask about this, because I know your military background. I use the word military, but as an officer, getting to assistant commissioner, you said the inner cities have not changed, and that is so profound to hear in 2020, November. What is it that you would have seen as a police officer? And you kind of spoke to it earlier, what you were seeing in the community as an officer. You were in charge of the firearms division, et cetera. What are you seeing? Because you hear on the news, and I know the audience will have questions around, how there's this engagement and how do you do community policing and those types of things. What are you still seeing that you saw back then? And what do you see as a part of the solution to getting the communities where they need to be?
Very good. Excellent question. And I think I see an inkling in that direction. I noticed recently they've been having this neighborhood watch thing on. I've seen a lot of that about this neighborhood watch, and people who live in the various neighborhoods who are now getting back to basics in terms of how you reach these people in the inner city. You see, The problems of these people, and in my professional career as a police officer, um, I can tell you the most important thing to do is how to relate to people. How do you connect? How do you speak to that young man who doesn't have a job? He's sitting on the wall and he knows that he has the talent and the gift to do something, but nobody is checking for him. All they're trying to do is to lock him up. Lock him up. So what you do, you call him, you sit him down, you find out what is his problem, what you can do to help him. He might be a fellow who have been to jail before, but society is not accepting him, even though he's out of jail, because you can't keep them up there forever. They're Bahamians, they have to come back into the community.
Right.
So how do you can't keep rotating them. So you have to now find a way to help them. And the only way to do that, you have to form that bond and that relationship where this young man can come to you with his problems and say, sir, I'm trying my best. You think you can help me find a job? It doesn't matter. I can be a laborer. I can help put things on the truck. I just need something to do to be worth something. And that's where you start. But the first thing to do, you have to find the time to engage in that conversation in order to do that.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Our society sometimes can be very, very mean in that respect, because in the inner city, again, like I said, nothing changes. You go down in town, over the hill, most of the churches are in these densely populated communities, and the help that those people need is so much prior to the pandemic. And now with the pandemic, so many people need the help, if only a word of encouragement, and I have said to many people, particularly youth leaders, you have to now put a lot of your training into action. It's no more talk. People are not interested in talk now. You can stand up to a microphone, and that microphone will allow you to talk all day and all night. But until you get from that mic and do what you are supposed to do to help these communities, we're going to always have the problem. And that's why, fortunately, with the lockdowns, crime has taken a tremendous dip, even though we still have crime. But the lockdown, I can tell you, has helped it a lot, coming towards the Christmas season, So I say to persons who are interested and who want to do something, you have to do something. Find out your purpose. Why are you here on this earth? Were you just created by God to achieve all the academic? You could have the whole alphabet behind your name. These people in this community, they never ask you where did you matriculate. They don't even know what the word matriculation is. They're not interested in that.
That is so good.
They're not interested in your title. You could be the Pope. They want to know what say ye? What do you have for me? And that's the reality of it. You see, and this New Providence we 21/7, and the bulk of our population who are in need is tied up in one central area. I'm not talking about the outskirts where people have moved to urban areas, and they can kind of fend for themselves. I'm talking about those people who are trying to get out of the crab hole. And the only way they can get out of that is people who got out of the crab hole to go back to the crab hole and pull them out. Say, man, I come to help you get out. That's why I use the Kobe boys as trophies. Those boys came from nothing. I could tell you, barefoot. And I could show you the house where they grew up. But now those boys have made it, and they're doing well. And one of them would have probably made it into the NBA because he played for, I think, Wichita. His school almost was in the NCAA championship, and somehow they didn't get there. And I watched those games, and I keep track of them, and that's just the way it is. You invest in people, you pour what you know in other people's lives, and you get the dividends.
And that is so amazing, yes, to hear the stories Now we're gonna start to segue so that other people can ask questions of you. But what advice would you give to someone who is trying to be a part of the transformation process in their own community, who sees that there are things that are going wrong and things that can be changed? Because once we come out of these lockdowns and these curfews, you're going to be
Yes,
dealing with the situations. You
most
know,
definitely.
how is it that they can take a step forward to help with their own community transformation?
The first thing, have a vision. That's the first thing. Not only a vision for your life, but have a vision of what you want to do and be demanding. Know yourself and be yourself. I'm not trying to be anybody else but John Ferguson. Be yourself, know yourself. That is, know your limit. Every one of us as human beings, we have a limit. Don't mind us flouting and bragging and talking. We have a limit. Always do your best. Someone is watching. Whatever you're going to do your best. Keep your ego under control. Let me repeat that. Keep your ego under control.
That's good.
Let me tell you, if I mind what people would have told me, I probably would have been clambering or doing something else. You know, one time a fella came to me, a certain fella came and said, man, you know something? Why don't you go into politics, man? You could run, you could. I say, man, I'm not a politician. And that kind of stuff. The politicians, they know how to do that. I can't be no politician. I can only be who I am. Be careful what you choose, you may get it. Be careful what you choose, you may get it. It worked for me.
Tell me what you mean for that, what you mean about that. Be careful what you choose, you may get it.
Well, you see, some people, they have big aspirations, but they don't have the capacity to carry out that aspiration. You know, they want to be this, they want to be that. And they take all their resources, and then when they have it, they can't handle it.
Wow.
It overwhelms them. And they drown in their own personal self-gratification. And it never works out. But all of those advice that you hear me said, it worked for me from my upbringing in that little alley and in my training in the police force, my 40 years that I spent, I call it the University of Life. When I joined the force as a little young 17-and-a-half-year-old constable and rose to the rank of assistant commissioner. You know, I remember one of the English officers, he asked me a question. I might have been a sergeant or inspector at the time. He said, Ferguson, what rank do you want to reach? And I stood in his face and I said, assistant commissioner. And by the grace of God, it happened because that was where my vision was. And so that's the advice I give to anyone, anything you want to be. And that's what I tell those youngsters in the alley. You know, when I talk to them, I say, man, you could be anything you want to be. Don't mind where you're starting, it's where you finish. It's how you finish the race. You could start the race slow, but you could finish fast. And so that is my advice to them.
Wow. You could be a consultant on community transformation, so.
Well, I'm always available, and anyone can call me at any time to find out how this was done, how that was done, yeah. Because it's relatively easy, but you've got to have the passion, the will, the commitment, the determination, and the zeal and the energy, you know, to do. Because the only time I am not in the community that I am presently serving is if I'm off the island and I have to be very sick, not sick, very sick, not to be there. And that's just the way it is, you know. Yeah. every now and then my wife just tell me, man, I can move your clothes back in Woods Alley because look like that's the only place you want to be. No, but seriously, that's the kind of passion you got to have for when you want to do something that you've been called to do. Some people are chosen to do things, some people are called to do things.
Yes.
It doesn't take away.
Excellent. So I will just open it up for a few minutes for those who wish to ask you questions, because this is just so profound what you're sharing in terms of the community transformation. Can you, just as we start that, can you advise like how many children, you started with 35, so how many children that you now have coming in?
We have an enrollment of about 500 plus. And when I tell you that, Siobhan, I could show you the roster, the list, name for name of those youngsters. And we at one time it was so much, and the new faces was showing up prior to this pandemic, new faces showing up every Sunday afternoon because our classes were held on the outdoors. We had about 4 classes on the outdoors in the courtyard, and they started bringing their parents. So we had to develop a class for the parents, you know. And like I say, a lot of people say, man, you could have started a church. No, God didn't call me to organize no church.
Wow.
The area is saturated with churches.
Yeah.
That's all you got in the inner city. The inner city got 2 things in common: plenty church and plenty barroom.
Oh,
Plenty barroom and plenty church. In fact, some of those communities, when you walk out the church, you looking straight in the liquor store. That's how serious it is.
yeah.
And if you want me to tell you the streets, I can tell you where they are. So, but you know, I would invite, when you see this pandemic, and we're not gonna have a Sunday school rally in next year because we take about 3 months to prepare for a rally, 3, 4, 5 months. So we're gonna rebroadcast this year's rally by television for the first time, hopefully, God's willing. But next 2022, God's willing, we hope, if this pandemic is completely gone, to have a big bang to get back to where we are. But we have the youngsters there. In fact, every time I go through there, even during the lockdown, a lot of them saying to me, Mr. Ferguson, we bored, we ready to come back to Sunday school. I said, no, I can't come back until the competent authority, you know, allow you all to come back. So I'm only watching what's going to happen now with the school system and some other stuff involving children, so that we can just get in that lane. You know, I got to stay in my lane now, but I'm going to get in that lane when that starts for things to get, because we cannot afford to lose another generation that don't know about Sunday school.
Yeah. And the thing is, principles, like some people who are not as familiar with Sunday school, they understand principles, right? For community living, respect for every individual, you know, treating someone as you want to be treated. Don't take something if it's not yours.
Yes.
You know, ask if you need to borrow something. You know, learn how to resolve conflict. If somebody, you know, rubs you the wrong way, you don't slap them, you don't suck your teeth, you don't start a fight. You know, these are the principles that you're learning in this environment, and those are principles for life wherever you go.
That's right. You're right. And that's why I say the fruits of the Spirit, those 9 fruits. You know, every time I meet one of the youngsters, particularly those who are adults, I say, what you can remember from coming to that Sunday school? They say, man, the books of the Bible, the fruits of the Spirit. And like I said, that first fruit, love. I mean, if you don't love people, and people of all persuasion, not people who you cherry pick to love, people of all persuasion. That's what Jesus did. Jesus had no problem when he met the woman from Samaria. As much as she was hated in her community, he gave her water to drink, that she never needed no more water after that. And that's why I said, you have to touch lives, and by touching people, it's all about people. And anyone who tell you otherwise, they're not they're not telling you the truth. It's all about people. And those youngsters that we cater to, they are so appreciative of what we do for them on a daily basis, on a daily basis. And I enjoy doing it. And I'm training and hoping to develop persons who can carry it on long after I'm gone.
Okay.
Long after I'm
Yeah,
gone.
that's critical.
Succession planning, is in place.
Absolutely.
And I hope that one day one of the youngsters who, in fact, one or two of them are already expressing interest. I try and keep them, molded and focused.
Yeah.
Leadership.
So I know Gertie has a question or two. She's getting her camera ready, but this is the last question I saw someone table to me. What is next? You talked about succession and development, pretty much mentoring. What is the next step for John Ferguson in community development? Is it only in Woods Alley, or is it to spread through other communities in the Commonwealth?
Well, what I have been doing, and that's an interesting question. We held about 2 years ago, we held a Sunday school workshop in Woods Alley. It's amazing. And the purpose of that workshop was to bring in young people or whoever desired to come to be trained and to be told how the blueprint to duplicate what we're doing. Right. Because it's more effective to put people who live in that community to do the work in that community.
Okay.
For instance, I could say, okay, I'm going down a 5 pound lot to start Sunday school. 5 pound lot. A lot of people, youngsters on this set don't even probably know we're 5 pound lot. 5 pound lot.
Listen, our people knows. Okay. They know.
Okay. Well, good. To go down in 5 pound lot to do a Sunday school would be a tremendous asset, because you've got hundreds of youngsters in that community. But someone from 5 pound lot would do a better job probably than I can do it. Okay. But I would have been the fire that sparked the match. Say, okay, you go back in 5 pound lot. These are your resources. What do you need? You let me know. And that's how the fire spread, when it's identified with people from those areas. But
that is such a great point. You have to start from within sometimes.
Yeah, you have to.
So John, I see some questions in the chat. We have 2 minutes. So Gertie, yes, right. But this has been a phenomenal conversation. Gertie, I'll let you ask those quickly, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a phenomenal conversation, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Now, there's a question. How important is the importance of keeping our neighborhood clean and pristine?
That is very important. And we in fact, we started doing that years ago. Let me tell you how basic it is. Sometimes I would see the youngsters walking and they would be eating something or drinking a can of soda, and they just throw it down in the road. I said, no, pick it up. Put it in the garbage. That's how you get them to understand that, look, you're not living in garbage. You cannot create garbage to live in garbage. You have to get rid of garbage in order that you can live in a clean environment. And what is happening, what should have happened and what is happening really is the sensitivity of our young people on keeping your neighborhoods clean. And that's why I was very encouraged by what I see. I saw a few advertisements on TV. I think they started in Ridgeland Park and some other areas, teaching these youngsters about the importance of keeping the neighborhood clean and to be always up to date on how to do things to make the neighborhood that more attractive. That's easy, but it has to be, the children have to be sensitized to that. And it should start at home, really.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Our next question, how important is for persons like me and others who grow up in an area to give back? You talked about it's easier for persons who are in the community to train them where we were actually born so that we can go in and personally do some evangelism and Sunday school. I don't really think that these persons want to be preached at. So that brings me to the next question. What are your plans for training so that we want to make sure that we're equipped to go into these communities that we were born in?
Well, good question. Like I said, we had a workshop. We had about 10 to 15 persons in that workshop. In fact, we even had someone came from Abaco who was in that workshop, who was given all of the basics that they needed. We gave out materials on how to go into a community and start a Sunday school. And it's interesting, you also said they don't want to be preached at. No, if you want to reach adults, reach the children. You touch a poisoned child and they will take your head off. You reach the children and you got the adults in the palm of your hand, because adults want to know where their children are, where they're going. And that's why I use that analogy of, let's say you're from Peter Street or Broome Street or whatever street, and you are familiar. Everybody know, oh, this Miss Sue's daughter. She now is coming back, say she want to start a little community Sunday school. And someone may say, well, she can say, oh, she can be right on Miss So-and-so porch. She can start right on the porch. They're gonna bring some chairs out, and I hear she's gonna bring some donuts and some drinks for us. My dear, let me tell you something. That will be one of the most dramatic moves you would have ever made. And that will cost you less than $50. Less than $50.
Excellent. Beautiful.
Yeah.
When I heard about your topic, one of the things that I thought about, when I thought about community transformation, I thought about making it clean and pristine, and particularly from the perspective of, well, COVID has made a lot of persons' job redundant, and companies are just not open at the moment. So I was thinking about plans as a community. You going into a community, getting the community involved so that they can establish perhaps a business, or to enhance a business that's there so that they can employ persons in their community. Tell me, what would be your three basic steps to get a community involved with a community project? And I understand that our first step is definitely putting the word back into the community, because if persons don't respect God, they're not going to respect you. So they will be able to break in your house and do whatever. So that would be our first step, making sure that God is the center of the community. Give the children the word, the parents the word, the sisters, the brothers. And so what would be your step 2, 3, and 4 that can get a community started in a great community project that can help everybody?
First, you have to find out what is the demand for that community. What is needed? Because you don't want to start something that is not needed.
Right.
Or duplicate something that is already there, unless you have another angle of duplicating it. And that's why I always use the community Sunday school that we started as a focal point, because you tell me in every constituency that we have in New Providence or right now, if you can show me another community Sunday school, I show it to me, and I'll have to come and see that. And that's the starting point. If you don't have something in a community, then if you start something, then you're the first to do it. So if that fire was to be caught in every constituency and every community, man, Nassau will become ablaze with the community spirit. That's the first thing. The second thing is, like I said, if you're going into a community from a business perspective, if you're going to open, whether it's a convenience store, a petty shop, no matter, you have to find out what is not there that you can bring there that will transform the community. And this pandemic has really caused that to happen, because you have a lot of people who never used their hands to do anything, but now they found out that their hands have talent. Everybody now making face masks. Everywhere you go now, somebody's trying to sell you a face mask, because that is a new trend now. And then you have to be creative. You have to be thinking creatively and doing things that no one ever did before. And I see this, the Southern Recreation Grounds now. When I grew up in Woods Alley, the Southern Recreation Grounds was you go there, you go to the library, and you play ball. Now you pass there now, it's a different Southern Recreation Ground. All kind of new things are there now in terms of that particular community, you know. So you have to be creative in what you want to do. You have to be deliberate and intentional in what you want to do. And you cannot allow no one to discourage you and cause you to retard from what you have been called to do. See, I know that among us Bahamians, we are easily discouraged. All it takes is someone to say, man, what you going there for? Ain't nothing there. And then you say, well, anyhow, you might be right. And you go back home and go back to sleep. But you have to be intentional. And I'll tell you, we have a community center in right in Woods Alley. And I invite you to pass there anytime you're ready. Not a bar. When I say bar, I mean to the windows. Not a nothing. Every other church around there got steel bars, even around the air conditioning unit, even around the pumps. You pass and look at our community center, not a bar, never had a break-in. You know why? Because everyone around there is a security guard.
Wow.
Everyone in that community, they watch that building because that's theirs. And if they see someone who don't look like them from around, they would tell me, say, Ferguson, I see one fella pass here. We never see him before. But anyhow, I say, y'all keep watching him. And that is when you have a community behind you in what you're doing. I don't have a problem when a youngster or one of the fellas around there say, Ferguson, let me hold on one, slow $2. Man, I give him $3. Because I paying $3 for security. He watching that building.
Absolutely.
What $3 don't hurt me? I give him that $3, and he's happy with $3. And I would ask him, I say, what? He say, man, Mr. Ferguson, the only thing I want you to do is to stand my bail in case I see anyone go in that building. I serious, you know, and you can put it to the test. So I say that to say that's what happened when you become threaded, you become embedded in the community with what you're doing, and the people gravitate. You know, people tell me every other day, I don't know what would have happened without this school here. The children they can't wait for Sunday afternoon because they have nothing else to do, you know. But they come to Sunday school. They know they're going to get their little refreshments. When school is getting ready to open, they get their books, their pencils, their backpacks, everything. Awesome. That's what community and service is all about. That's what it's all about.
And that is
not
phenomenal.
Given.
That is it. That is what we're talking about. And I see people asking more chats, sending me questions privately. But guys, we are out of time. Persons are also asking how they can reach out to you, Mr. Ferguson, or your team, because they want to access training.
Yeah,
they see things that they would like to do. Can you just give us some sort of contact for your team?
Yes. Well, they can get me on my email, john_fergie@hotmail.com, or they can go on our website, www.mybigharvest.com.
Okay.
And we have a lot of,
Go ahead. You have a lot of.
They can access. And then they can call me on my phone. You have my numbers.
Yes,
they can email me. They can WhatsApp me on 376-1833. There's so much ways they can reach me. I'm accessible, easily accessible. You know,
so let the transformation begin.
Yes.
In every community, let the transformation begin.
And what I would like, not cutting you off, Sabon, while I remember, what I would like to tell all of those persons now who are under the sound of my voice, go back into that community where you came from. You may now be living in Westwood Villas or West Ridge or South Beach or wherever, but somewhere along the line, your original place was Broome Street or Kwaku Street or Augusta Street. Go back there and find out what is needed, what you can do to help that community, and be intentional and sincere. And I could tell you, if God is in it, you'll be telling me about it later.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Ferguson. Join us next week for our conversation on national transformation, where we'll have Mr. Jeffrey Beckles, who's the CEO of Island Pay and the immediate past president of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce. And of course, you can join us using the same Zoom details and Facebook details as well, because we'll be streaming live to Facebook. So bye for now. Have a fabulous weekend and have a fantastic week ahead. Thank you, John. Thank you, Gertie. Thank you, everyone on Facebook and Zoom. It was amazing having you with us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.